Hello, everyone. This is Realtor Linda Peltz. We are here today with Jimmy, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. He has some great services for you, so pay attention. Here we go. Jimmy, take it away.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Jimmy Widjaj. I've been an agent for a little over 22 years. We have three bilingual staff members. As you know, Fresno County now probably over 50% Hispanic, so it's kind of important to have bilingual staff. And
It
we
is really important. I know in the real estate field, I deal with a lot of the Hispanics, and then of course it's a kind of a language barrier. So it is very
Yeah,
important to have the different staff that can communicate with our clients. So that's a
definitely.
great feature.
Yeah, and then we offer just every product that you can think of about insurance, from the personal insurance like auto, home, motorcycle, motorhome, mobile home, ATV, boat, you name it, business insurance, workers' compensation, um, any product of life insurance for like mortgage protections and everything else. And plus, we also do financial service, 401k, IRA, and all that stuff. So, basically, we want to be like a one-stop service. Uh,
Wonderful. And I assume there's some place where they can contact you, maybe get a quote, or at least talk to you about maybe what they're thinking versus what maybe you can offer.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, the process. Once we get to know the client interested in particular home, we go through the quoting process, email the quote, and follow up with the phone call. So as with the fire that's been happening all around us, it's getting more and more challenging. Like there's some areas, I'm sure, I don't know if you also sell houses up in the foothills area. We call it fire line area. Those fire line area, all those, if not all of it, there's probably still a few, but the one that's still out there writing, they probably ended up not writing a homeowner policy anymore. The way they do it now is they write the policy look like homeowner policy with an exception of fire perils.
Oh, so that policy's separate. So
Co-
that
Correct.
my understanding from dealing with some of these is it comes from like a state program where it's,
Correct.
I don't
California
know,
Fair Plan.
California Fair Plan. So
Yeah.
kind of maybe
So
explain to, since we have so many fires going on, maybe kind of explain to them how that kind of works. That would be a good.
okay, yeah. So if for someone that interested in buying a house up in the foothills area, uh, you know, um, almost all insurance company come up with the policy that have to have a companion, because that policy that they came up with uh, exclude the fire coverage. So with that said, that we have to get an additional policy um, from California Fair Plan. And in the California Fair Plan, you can get from directly from them or any agent. The premium will be exactly the same if they put all the right coverage. So I've seen some
Mm.
agent put the coverage of fire only coverage without everything
Mhm.
else. Like, and then without the contents, without the loss of use. The loss of use meaning if there's smoke damage like they have to be evacuated. Those are the loss of use coverage that needs to be used for that particular peril.
I
I've
suppose
seen.
they're trying to keep the cost down maybe or something, but
Well,
gosh, it
that's
doesn't sound
like
like in the long run it would help.
the problem with that, like they just, like hoping that nothing's going to happen, right? But when it
Right.
happened, then there's going to be some major problem, like that you're going to be deal with it. The agent might get like sued from their errors and omission, which is professional, liability, coverage, because what ended up happening, some of these agent thinks that, well, there are all these other coverage from the main policy, right? The loss of use and everything else. But what they don't realize, if the cost of the perils is fire, then this other homeowner policy from Farmers or Allstate or State Farm or whatever else, it's not going to pick up that.
Oh, it's not going to pick it
Okay,
up. So they need to put it
exactly.
somewhere.
So only that California Fair Plan policy with all whatever that they put on it will be covered on there. So if they
Ah,
just put fire only, there's no contents, there's no loss of use, there's no building code upgrade or anything like that, which is a much cheaper policy, of course, right?
right.
Because they don't have
Yeah.
anything else
You
that's
get what
supposed
you
to be
pay
on there.
for. You get what you pay
Exactly.
for.
Your house is one of your biggest investment. Like you need to understand building code upgrade, all this other little things, like people, I do not, want to compete with price, because I know when something happened, I've been doing this 20 years. All those coverage that I put on there are needed. I know it doesn't happen very, very often. Being in the business for 22 years, I've seen people going through, that house, that they have their house burnt down. So, and then believe me, all those coverage that I put in, they thank me for all that.
It almost sounds like and I don't think people really do it on a normal basis, but it almost sounds like that's something they almost need to be reviewing every year or two.
That's
And
what my service is. Exactly. Just like when you go to the dentist, you go once every 6 months, they do teeth cleaning, make sure there's no cavity. If there's some cavity, they want to make sure it get filled before it become a bigger problem and you might lose a tooth. Same thing with your house. Your house is one of your biggest investment. We communicate, we educate to, so they understand, so when some other company comes behind us, they already know, well, I know you're cheaper because, you don't have all this coverage that Jimmy's already explained, all these details, so
it's
that's a
kind of
service
like
that
in the
we.
real estate business, we're trying to compare apples to oranges. I mean, you can have two houses that look identical from the outside, but you walk inside and maybe one has a pool in the backyard, maybe one has had its windows updated, maybe one has granite countertops and one has carpet versus hardwood. Or so we're taking these two houses that look identical from the outside, and you're kind of doing the same thing, and then you're trying to compare apples to oranges, and then the one that doesn't have any of the updates or any of the upgrades gets kind of butthurt because their house isn't worth as much as the one next door, but they took the time and the love and the care, and they did the maintenance and they did the upgrades, and that's the benefit of that. Sometimes it's those little hidden things that people don't really see that makes the
Exactly
difference.
right. You're like you explained it correctly right there. And and then the same thing with, unfortunately, when they see quotes from, for ABC company, XYZ company, they just look on the bottom right hand corner. What is that amount?
Bottom line.
Bottom right hand corner. You know what? They need to understand, you're buying, what's the cheapest house, or 300,000, and then your
If we're
policy,
lucky
you
right
want
now.
to save $200-300 on your homeowner policy, and then come to find out when something major happened, and then you don't have all these coverage that needed to be there, that so it's not like, because at the end of the day, like you think that you're saving 300 for dollars a year, but that's like what, $25 a month, which is nothing. But like, those are the coverage that you really, really needed. That's the
That's a
reason
few
why you need to.
Starbucks right there.
Yeah, yeah. So
Give
that's the
up a
reason
couple
why I can.
Starbucks, cover your house.
Exactly right. So that's why we communicate, educate the client, so they understand. Oh wow, okay, now I know. So when like, because unfortunately, like the media and all these other companies, all they do is just putting price, and they're sacrificing coverage, unfortunately, like they just, and then there are a lot of coverage that put that as an optional. Let me just give you one example. Building code upgrade. I don't know if you're familiar with that. For example, 98% of the time when the house caught on fire, it's not completely burnt to the ground.
Right.
Let's say most of the
Just
time,
damage. Lots of damage.
exactly. Let's say the kitchen is burnt and the rest of the house is okay. As you know it, the newer house that built in 2013 or newer, if you look at up in the ceiling, they have fire sprinkler system. So in order to rebuild that kitchen, they need to get a permit. In order to get a permit, they want to make sure the rest of the house up to date code to 2021. They cannot put whatever, let's say the house is built in 1990s, right? They cannot put
Right.
2021 code in the kitchen and the rest of the house 1990. So, like, I don't know if you've drive around town, seen some house and some neighborhood caught on fire. 4, 5, 6 months later, you drive through that same neighborhood, that same exact house is just covered up in plywood. They found
Mm-hmm.
out the hard way they don't have the right coverage. So those are little things like that. If you just look at on the bottom right hand corner for the premium, that like just like you say, you get for what you pay for.
Well, it's kind of like, I've seen some of those houses where they've had the tarp over it for whatever, years, 5 years. But what happens is, okay, the insurance company may have gave them, whatever, their 20,000 for whatever it was the problem was, but it's going to take 50,000 to actually repair the house. So
Yeah,
where does the other 30,000 come from? And a lot of people just don't have that kind of money sitting
exactly.
around to where they
Yeah,
can actually get the house fixed. So you're stuck with this huge investment that you can't get rid of, you can't fix, you can't live in it. So then it's a huge financial burden if you don't get the correct coverage to where you need to be almost looking at this insurance like, okay, if tragedy hits, how much can I afford to make up the difference in order to get it put back together?
correct.
I mean, like for instance, I think maybe an easier one to maybe look at is full coverage on a car versus just liability. Can you afford to replace that car if you just carry liability? Can you afford to just go pay cash and buy another car if you're only covering your, the other person's vehicle, you're not covering your own? Because that's the kind of the difference, right? Whereas, full collision, okay, it's a little bit more every month, but you know what? You're going to get another car out of it if, God forbid, something happens. I mean, you kind of have to look at, okay, if I just get this policy, am I going to be able to cover up and make up the difference for this other stuff that's going to happen in order to live in the house? Am I going to be able to afford that? And it's almost like we need to come up with a way to maybe explain that to the clients better. I know there's a lot of areas out there in our personal lives that are super important, but I don't think the knowledge and the education's been there over the years to where a lot of these people really understand the importance of some of this stuff, when you start dealing with the big things in life, like houses and vehicles. That's a huge expense in a person's life, and of course the homes are even more. That's one of the biggest financial decisions a person's going to make, but you have to learn to protect it. So you
Exactly.
can't just say, okay, I buy a house and that's all the expense there's ever going to be. You have all these background expenses that go with it, maintenance and updates and insurance and different things that have to go into it to keep your huge investment that you just made safe. So,
Correct. You just mentioned it like that. You got to protect your, basically insurance, like is to protect your current asset and future earnings. Like we talked about the home side. We want to make sure you get the right policy. You know, like it's almost better off to carry a higher, if you know, like if you want to get a lower premium with a higher deductible, make sure all your policy, all the, you know, like the proper coverage there, and then carry a higher deductible. You know, if something happened, the worst that you got to lose, whatever, like 2,500 or 5,000, you know, but everything else is there, you know, like rather than get
But
some.
make sure you can cover that deductible or you're stuck between a horrible
Correct.
world out there.
Yeah, yeah, correct. No, yeah. What I'm saying is, like, rather than
Yeah.
getting like a just cheap policy that has nothing on it, you know, like it's almost better to get all the, you know, policy that covers everything with a higher deductible.
With just increase your deductible. So instead of
You
paying
know,
that 30,000 to put that house back together, it's only going to cost you 5,000, which is a little bit more doable,
or you got no coverage whatsoever when
or
something
no
happens.
coverage whatsoever.
Exactly, you
Then
know,
you're
with the
stuck
cheaper
covering the whole
policy.
50,000. Yeah.
Exactly, you know, with the cheaper policy, you know. And then, you know, you know, go back to the auto coverage. You know, most people buy auto insurance just to be legal to drive. You know, they don't even know, you know, like, so
They
when
don't look at the big picture.
yeah,
It's
you know,
like,
like when I,
no.
I ask, okay, how much coverage you all have? I have full coverage. You know what I mean? Like I have, you know, what's the definition of full coverage? The liability, which is 15, 30, and 5, which is state, you know, minimum requirement, comprehensive and collision. That's the definition of full coverage. You know, like when I go over with clients, we call liability exposure. Everybody is different. You know, I do not recommend client that own a house the same coverage than somebody that just barely got out of, you know, graduated out of college. You know what I mean? Like they don't have a whole lot to lose, right? And in comparison, somebody own a house, you know, great career and stuff like that. We need to figure out, okay, how much asset you have, how much equity do you have on your house, what is your annual earnings? All those things needs to be protected, because I got a couple of examples. You know, I got a buddy of mine, this happened in 2005 when the real estate market kind of just like today right now, right? Like going up like this. He had 2 houses in San Diego, you know, um, equity, you know, well, at over 400,000. He has high limit coverage with us, 250,000 bodily injury limit per person, uh, 500,000 per accident, 100,000 property damage. Went to go skiing at a Bear Valley right there down south. Head-on collision with a nurse. Uh,
Ugh,
Unfortunately, he did not qualify for an umbrella. I don't know if you're familiar with the umbrella coverage. Umbrella
sure.
coverage is very, very inexpensive. You know, it's it covers you $1 million on top of your home policy and all your auto policies. And make a long story short, we pay that nurse. You know, she broke both hands. 250,000 medical bill, loss of wages, and pain, suffering. We took the car total, we replaced it. And make a long story short, 23 months later, he's got a letter from the lawyer. She only got 50% use of her arms.
Oh no.
Make a long story short, he thought he had well access $400,000 equity of the house. He owed 100% again. He had to pull out all
Oh,
those equity to just make the claims go away. So those are just one story, but I have like many, many other stories that, you know, people actually did not lose anything because they have proper coverage. You know,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
it's like, you
Wow.
know, yeah. So it's a,
It's a
um,
tough, hard lesson, almost too late.
yeah,
I bet he's better covered now
of
though.
course, yeah. He did not want to lose that umbrella coverage. Yeah, you know, like you do not have to drive, you know, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. Another client happened in the parking lot, you know, like talking to his son. His son wanted a manager right here in Blackstone area. And then by the time they're done, dad looked around, there's nobody behind him. Look in the mirror, there's nobody. Put the car in gear, car jerked a little bit. There's 85-year-old man leaned against his blind spot, fell and broke his
Oh,
hip. He has a
oh,
house in Bass Lake, house in Clovis. Make a long story short, we pay 1.25 million. He did not lose anything.
oh,
So
wow.
that, you know, that's, you know, having proper coverage can, you know, make you, you know, like once I
I
go
think
over.
I wish it was something that maybe they got a health checkup just a little bit sooner, on their policies to prevent some of that. But I think it's almost one of those things in a lot of our lives where you don't really think about it till something happens, and then you're going, why didn't I have that?
That's why
Too late.
very, very, strongly recommend every single one of our client, before the policy renew, all my staff over here contacted them. We know your time is valuable, but once again, you have one of your biggest investment. Like we value your time, but please come. Even sometimes, like we don't. If they can't come over here, we do a, like Zoom or over the phone interview to review their policy. So
That is one
that's
thing about COVID. I think everybody's a little more acceptable to these Zooms, and we can do a little more for them because, of the time constraints and over Zoom. But I think it would be a great service, and maybe you offer something like that where clients can get a copy of their policy no matter what insurance company they're with, and maybe they could send it to you and you could do kind of a health safety checkup for them, and kind of maybe you could even guide them a little bit. I'd recommend you get whatever coverage maybe a little differently or something like that. Is that something maybe you offered for the
Oh yeah, definitely. We do that all the time. We do that all the time. Like
So
we
what would they need to get in order to what?
well,
Email it over to
basically,
you?
yeah, basically what they need to get is the what we call declaration page of the policy of their current home or auto policy or umbrella if they have it, like, and then all they need, because those declaration page only consists of maybe 2-3 pages max,
Okay.
and then so that way,
So that
like,
kind of has all the pertinent information you can compare
correct.
to.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Okay,
So
everybody, get your declaration pages out and get them over to Jimmy. What's your email, Jimmy? You're going to have a whole inbox full of all these declarations. Can you give me a health safety checkup on my policy?
yes, definitely. Like it's my email is my initial J, last name WID, like JAJA at farmersagent.com.
And don't worry, we'll leave that down in the comment section down there in the description so everybody can get a hold of it. But
All right,
that's
sounds good.
great. That's a great service, I think, that you can offer. And it's kind of similar to what I do in real estate when I go out on these listing appointments. I only have the information of what's sitting out there, but there again, we kind of have to compare the apples to oranges. And so when I go to sell these homes, by the way, if you need a home sold, I'm here. Make sure you get over to me, because that's kind of what I do. I do kind of that checkup, on where your house sits compared to all the surrounding houses that sold out there. And we kind of have to do that compare to apple to orange thing, and hopefully we get the seller to understand, this is because there's a lot of home valuation, kind of like you said, quotes, I guess, hey, send in your address and get a quote, for what your house would sell. But they're not always super accurate because it's not taken into account all these different apples and oranges on the house, with the upgrades and the ones that haven't been maintained. So two houses from the outside may come up with the same value on these computerized home value pages. So what I do is I will send them that, so it kind of gives them a range, it gives you a low end and a high end, but they still need to call me. I set up a listing appointment, I bring all the paperwork out, and then I pull all the comps, and then we go over, the differences in their houses in order to come up with a proper listing price and approximate price that it's going to sell for. Because let's face it, I can't speak for all the buyers out there as far as, what you're going to do, but I can give you a general idea of where the market is and where that house will more than likely probably sell within, a certain parameter. So, and then of course it's up to the seller whether they accept it or not. But that's kind of what we do in the real estate world is I just don't have a declaration they can send over to me. I actually have to go see the house. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I need the house. So I kind of go over that. So I guess that's my declaration page is the house. In your house, how you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we do it in the real estate too. But sounds like sending the declaration page to your email is a whole lot easier.
Yeah. It's yeah, we, like that's with all this new technology and everything, that's can make everybody's job a lot easier, I
Well,
guess.
and
Yeah.
I think it gets our faces out to where, they realize we're here, I mean, um, there's so many different agencies out there, but if they're not willing to talk to you and they don't get the information out, how are people supposed to know that they can trust you, or that you're there for their needs, and what services you have? So I think it's really important that we get the word out, and that they, with this especially with this COVID thing, I think that is one thing that's been good for a lot of businesses. It kind of gave them a business health checkup on getting out in front of the people, because we've had to do things differently. We've had to, kind of get creative on how to still run our businesses, and how can we still communicate with these clients and let them know that we're still there, even though we're having to abide by all the state laws just like they are. And, we're kind of office ridden compared to what we used to be. I was out in the field, good 8 hours a day. Now I'm kind of limited, I'm still out in the field probably more than some of the different aspects of some of these businesses, but in the same respect, I'm in the office a lot more than I used to be ever since COVID kind of hit. So, but it's been good. I kind of took a checkup of my business to see how can we still work, and how can we still get the word out to all our viewers out there and all our clients that, we are here, and we are here to serve you, and we are here to help you through some of these huge decisions that we have to make. And I think insurance is a huge one that I don't think people really understand how important it is. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on today and kind
Yes,
of
thank you.
help guiding us through all that. And I look forward to hear how many declarations you get in your email.
I will be in touch with you. Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, Jimmy, for getting on here. And I will go ahead and sign off today. Everybody, this is Realtor Linda Peltz. My number's 559-353-4556. I am with eXp Realty. I'm here to answer all you and your friends' real estate needs and questions. Feel free to get over to me. And if you would like to get a hold of Jimmy, I will leave his information down in the description. And of course, you can always get a hold of me, and I can get you two introduced to each other. So everybody have a tremendous day, and we will come at you from another day and another subject. But today, this is it. So have a great day, everyone.